Power Hour LSU.
PHL, extra little bit of swag, an extra little bit of taste.
Yeah. Man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man.
Let's freaking go. I don't know why at the beginning I couldn't get my thing to play, but I finally did. Big shout out to the intro. Big shout out to each and every one of you. I am a proud podcaster, which means any moment now the Lakers could hire me to be their next coach. So life is great for me. And I'll be honest, I'm about to say something that I feel uncomfortable saying because I wasn't good at this particular thing either, which is making good grades. I can't believe on a football show we're actually going to talk about the off-the-field academics. This will be the only time we ever do this. Well, we do it once a year because last year it wasn't a good academic report for LSU. We're talking about that. We're also talking about how in love I am with the film of KALIQ LOCKETT, a five-star receiver. Is there a real possibility that he picks LSU? My sources have told me, best of luck. I would love for him, though, to be a part of the best wide receiver tradition in all of college football. But I do want to start talking about grades, and grades are very important. You might not think that, but last year LSU was saved once again by the COVID year. So last year LSU was under the academic requirements in order to be a Division I Power 5 team. And if that happens, I think you have to pay a fine or you lose scholarships or something along those lines. It's normally not a good thing, but LSU moved up the academic pecking order. And after dropping under the minimum, LSU football recorded a single year APR score of 977. So obviously a really, really good thing. Brian Kelly, of course, coming over from a school that had higher academic levels. So the truth here is this really that big of a deal? Yes, because as someone who went to LSU, now things could have changed, but I knew quite a few players around that time. And I will tell you, especially compared to Notre Dame or Stanford or higher levels of academic standards, it is not hard to meet the academic requirements needed at LSU. And I am not privy fully to the information on what actually qualifies. It was explained to me last year that it's very important that none of your players get suspended or dropped out because you get a huge penalty if a player doesn't finish out the academic calendar. But as Cole astutely points out, BK's slogan is graduate champions. And obviously champions is what we all care about, but he also says graduate. He wants you to graduate. So the simple truth is LSU's academics, it's not hard to pass. It's just not. Like, you would be shocked how easy it is. You've got to have major commitment issues to not get over the top. Now, once again, I am always open with my own academic issues. I myself graduated with a 2.7 from the journalism school. You're supposed to have at least a 3. I'm shocked I still graduated. I don't know how I graduated, but I did. One day they will rescind my diploma. I don't know why. I have no special connections or anything like that. But I do have a story once of a final that should not have actually been graded the way that it was, but I won't get into my theories as to why they passed me. That's for a different story for a different day. But I'm very happy that we increased our academic standards. Give Brian Kelly a lot of credit for that. Give LSU staff off the field mostly credit for that, because you do get the best tutors. You do get academic privileges as being the first to actually get to schedule your classes. Mr. Lathan in early today. Good to see you, Van. Good to see Skipper. Good to see Cole, Pick Six, Lance. Good to see you. Brian Kelly reminds you of Tom Osborne. Players love him, but he's old school and strict. Okay. So the poll question's up. What was your college GPA? And if you didn't go to college, what was your high school GPA? And I think 45% of you are lying 3.6 or better. It's pretty impressive. Lots of smart people in here. Now, I want to shout out each and every one of you. We have been killing it with our live stream viewership. Last night was incredible. These past couple of weeks have been incredible. And I normally lag a little bit during baseball season, but I guess our baseball coverage got better. So I appreciate you guys. It's crazy that, I get to do this. So as always, your super chats are welcome. We'll still do this. First $50 super chat on the 1 hour stream today. We'll get this Tyrann Mathieu facsimile auto. It's not his real auto. It's just something that was given to me. If we get to $50 in super chats, we'll give that out today. Now, on to actual football here. I want to be really upfront with each and every one of you guys. I have studied LSU recruiting for a while now. And for those that are patrons, you have gotten extra access to some of my recruiting breakdowns when it comes to hit rate, development, and all of that. I'm going to tell you this. I've always felt this way. I don't know if it's my bias towards these things, but I always hold extra weight for developers, guys that are known as talent developers, over guys that are known as good recruiters. This has kind of become a red flag for me in the coaching industry. If I am told that Coach X is a good recruiter, if that's the first thing that is said about you, number one, I'm actually going to look at your commitment list on 247. I'm going to reach out to a few industry sources that say, hey, this person actually is a good recruiter. Because honestly, anybody can be a good recruiter. You can get 1 4-star and you can be labeled as a good recruiter. I really don't give a damn about that, because it always comes down to the school above all else, right? Obviously, a lot of kids commit to the coach, and when the coach leaves, they'll go to another school. But the brand equity of the school matters a little bit more, in particular at LSU, because LSU's brand equity is a little bit higher than most. So I would say probably 50-ish% of schools have more coach relationship reasons as to why you go to the school. And the other 50% have more, it has more to do with who you are as a school, right? Like if you are a tight end and you go to Iowa, well, it's because Iowa tight ends are the best. It's just, that's been, the truth. You go to LSU, most people go to LSU because it's LSU. I'm not saying that the coaches don't move the needle. Obviously, Frank Wilson does and many others. But if you're labeled a good recruiter, but you can't coach a lick and you can't develop a lick, and you put blame on others as to why this player didn't work out, it's not what I want. I want developers. Now, why do I say all of that? Well, the truth is, being a good recruiter or having that label does not matter as much anymore to me, even though it used to not mean a whole lot to me, because now it comes down to money. You could be the absolute best recruiter in the world, the best salesman in the world. If you don't meet a player's number, you're not getting them. You're not getting them. That's just how it works. Okay. And I will say this till I am blue in the face. If you're a good recruiter, but the position group stinks, what's the point of you being a good recruiter then if you can't develop the talent? So I say all of this because now I think we have true developers of talent on our defensive staff. You could make a very strong case that Blake Baker is the best developer of linebacker talent that we've ever had at LSU based on that 1 year he had with Damon Clark. All right. Obviously, Dave Aranda has a lot to say about that too, but we've seen what Blake Baker does. He develops people. More often than not, if you are on his defense, you got better as a player. The same thing is true with Bo Davis. Bo Davis is a master developer of defensive tackle talent. So even if you look at a kid's high school tape and you don't think he's the world's best, development matters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a few players that have risen for me, doing a little bit more research, making a few phone calls today, learning a little bit more behind the scenes of what's going on. All right, so we've already talked about KALIQ LOCKETT, 5-star wide receiver. It would not shock me if he's the best receiver in this class, even over Decorian Moore. I'm not there yet with Lockett. I think Decorian Moore is a real deal, and we'll see what happens if he decides to come back to LSU. But I'm going to be honest with you. These few players have stood out to me. I've given you KALIQ LOCKETT. The other player is Brandon Brown. We touched on it briefly yesterday. Went back, re-looked at a few things, looked again at a few things. Just remember the name Brandon Brown. Not the biggest, not the fastest, not the strongest, but he has something I like to call heavy hands. All right, and if you played the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some guys just have talent, and he's got real talent. All right. It's going to take some growth and some maturing as a player for him to get to his potential. But Brandon Brown has been put out there as a very strong flip candidate towards LSU. I think he's good. I really, really do think he's good. And it would be very nice if he were to go to LSU. And look, I am always a little bit more hesitant to saying a player being good if he's from a further distance away from LSU. I think proximity does matter in this day and age. I think it's always kind of mattered. He's all the way in Florida. And we've had a lot of good players in Florida, and we've also had a lot of players in Florida that did nothing. So, you know, it is a little bit of a risk, but this is a guy that was being recruited by Texas, by Bo Davis. So we have a really good player-to-coach relationship there. And we also have playing time in the near future open. So Brandon Brown, even though he's a 2025, he's not someone that can help us. Man, I've grown on him. I have grown on him. All right. The kid can, I'm serious. If you watch a lot of UFC, some guys just have cinder blocks as hands. All right. Some guys just have it. It's not a strength thing. It's not even really a technique thing. Some guys just can hit harder. And there's some guys that can take a hit harder than others. Like, obviously, my favorite of all time is Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler can take a hit. Okay. He can take a hit. So some guys just have that. And Brandon Brown, go watch him. Go watch him. Every time he plays, he's got people getting jacked up. And there was something that happened in his tape I think I've never seen before. So he's grown on me. I normally don't like to overhype high school players, but I am at a year 2 grade for him. And that's bold because I haven't seen his senior tape yet because his senior tape has not been out there. So kid out of Florida, really excited about him. Another player that has grown on me, and more so during the current team, as far as players that are on the roster right now, all right, is Braden Swinson. He's grown on me a good bit. Is some of this optimism? Yes. Some of it is just me hoping that we can have one superstar in. And when Swinson played last year, he made a lot of plays. Obviously, he had the big play versus Missouri to help seal that one. I felt at times he would freelance just a little too much. And I think at times we weren't gap sound. What that tells me, though, is Kevin Peoples, who is a respected defensive end developer. Peoples, there you go. You like heavy hangers or handers. I like that, man. We're on the same wavelength. What that tells me, if you have ability, but sometimes your refinement isn't quite there yet, you just need a better coach. And when you really piece it all together, all right, let's put together a Braden Swinson timeline. And this is the way I understand it. I could be totally wrong on this. Braden Swinson was initially at Oregon, all right, 3-star recruit from Georgia, all right. I normally fade recruits that have to make cross-country trips to go to your school. Okay, so 3-star to Georgia goes all the way to Oregon, all right. And what I was told was LSU felt he was playing a little out of position. Now, Swinson had one big game at Oregon that really stood out. It was when they upset Ohio State at Ohio State. I went and watched the game. He did some really good things in that game. A lot of it was kind of coverage sacky kind of stuff, but he did play well, and it looked like he belonged. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. So now he comes back to the South, SEC, where he probably always wanted to play. And I was told that Jamar Cain was the one that really wanted Braden Swinson to come in, and he's gone. So Swinson is now being coached by somebody new. That's not really a Jack Inns kind of coach, right? It got moved around. So it's going to be Jancic. Then the Jimmy Lindsey thing happened, and then Jimmy Lindsey's gone. Jancic's coaching the defensive line. That we don't have a Jack coach who's coaching the linebackers. It's a Diaco. There's a lot of movement happening, and Swinson was still able to produce. So the defensive end position at LSU has grown on me. It has grown on me because the more you piece things together, the more you kind of talk yourself into, yeah, there's a reason why that this guy wasn't really that good. All right. There's a legitimate excuses. And the thing is Braden Swinson showed you something. He showed you something last year. He showed you big playmaking ability. All right. So the bottom line is I have grown on Braden Swinson after rewatching him some today as being a potential longer shot all SEC caliber player. All right. That's how much he's grown on me. And look, hopefully it's Deshaun Womack too. Hell, hopefully it's Dylan Carpenter, who's a little bit deeper on the depth chart. I know a lot of you are really high on Gabriel Relaford. I know a lot of you still love you some Savion Jones. The defensive end position has grown on me. All right. Glenn Dorsey definitely had heavy hands. But what couldn't that guy do on the field? He was so special, man. It's interesting you brought that up, Van. I'm going to make a statement here. I'm going to go a little bit off. I was going to save this after our 30-minute break with our friends at nooffseason.com. I'm working on something for the SEC channel, and I also want to thank you guys. My Joe Burrow video on the NFL channel started picking up some steam. How Joe Burrow saved us from NFL hypocrisy, NFL corruption, and you will learn that Joe Burrow won the most influential game of the past 10 years in the NFL. So go to Power Hour NFL. I'll also say it this way. If you hate the NFL, and a lot of you don't, a lot of you do not like the NFL. I love the NFL. Joe Burrow cost the NFL millions of dollars by doing this thing. All right. And it wasn't his fault. He was just doing his job. If you want to learn Power NFL, go check it out. So I'm working on a deep dive for Power Hour SEC. I was like, okay, so I spent a full week just doing this Power Hour NFL video. And I started looking into bad calls by referees. All right. And one team stood out to me as a team that continuously, and I mean continuously, kept getting saved by the referees. All right. And it's not quite who you think. So in the chat right now, I want you to guess who is that team? Who is the team that has gotten more good calls than bad over the years? Teams that have been, which SEC team has been bailed out the most by referees? Give me your best guess. Because I was kind of shocked, and it kind of makes sense. All right. And while you do that, I'll take a look at the poll question here. 2.0 to 3.0, 39%. Okay, that's a little bit more accurate. That's where my college GPA was. But you guys let me know, which team do you believe has been bailed out the most by the referees? I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. Because it's kind of under the radar. But I'm going to let you know today. Because I've seen what I saw today was crazy. Absolutely crazy. Let me take a look really quickly. Probably won't do too much LSU recruiting stuff since we did quite a bit yesterday. Skipper says Alabama. That is Chan says the answer is Bama, even if you say someone else. It's actually not Alabama. I know a lot of you immediately think of Patrick Peterson. It is not Alabama. I kind of want to wait to see if somebody can actually get this. It's not Alabama. Okay. Let's see. The question is, which SEC team, and it's anecdotal, once again, it's just anecdotal, which SEC team has been bailed out by the referees the most? Now, Texas A&M, they've had some very favorable calls go their way. Very favorable. A ton in the Arkansas series have gone their way. All right. So Texas A&M had that, and then of course the 8 overtime game, which was BS. There was a few pass interference calls. So yeah, A&M's had some. Van says, "Ole Miss." All right, I'll go ahead and just give you the answer because I know we have a few podcast listeners just saying, "Hey, just tell us already." So it actually kind of makes sense because a lot of us always make the league office thing with Alabama, right? And look, there's been a lot of situations where Alabama's had favorable calls. The SEC title game this year, Alabama versus Georgia, the punt that was blocked when he was clearly onside. Obviously, Patrick Peterson being another one. Alabama's had some favorable calls. But the answer is Auburn. Auburn has had so many versus Arkansas alone. All right. The Bo Nix fumble versus Arkansas. All right. Was called by the same referee who called the hideous LSU Missouri game this year. they had so many calls go their way during that Cam Newton run. So many. All right. Most notably against Arkansas, when a few fumble reviews went their way when they shouldn't have. Then, a few years ago versus Ole Miss, there was a case where the ball clearly hit the Alabama or the Auburn returner, rolled into the end zone. Ole Miss recovered. It should have been a touchdown for Ole Miss. They called it a touchback. They said it didn't touch him. It clearly touched him. There are so many other instances. All right. And Van, I know Van's watching, and he's been a big supporter of us. One of Van's favorite periods of LSU football, and it was for a lot of you, was actually the period between 03 and 07. Those Jamarcus Russell teams that are sandwiched right there in the middle. Those teams were thrilling teams. They were a lot of fun to watch. Okay. Well, a lot of you remember the pass interference call that was picked up by the referee. All right. Clear pass interference versus Auburn. Okay. Clear pass interference. They picked up the flag, and LSU would have been in scoring position. So it's anecdotal. I've been going through and looking for as many calls that helped Auburn win games, and there's been quite a few. All right. Go back to 1995. The Iron Bowl, where Auburn got a very favorable call. And this is against Alabama, who we always say, gets the benefit of the doubt. Alabama wide receiver catches a touchdown. He was in bounds. They called him out of bounds. All right. Now, Cole says Auburn didn't get the Iron Bowl call last year. Which one? Which one? Okay. It's hi to William. I appreciate William. He was rocking his PHL gear in North Carolina. So I know a lot of us had a lot of complaints about the LSU baseball losses versus North Carolina. William actually had I was at the game equity. Okay. So this is William repping the brand. That is so cool. That gave me chills that my merch was in North Carolina for the game. That really made my weekend. Thank you so much. Walker Howard's dad threw some picks versus Auburn. Yeah, Jamie Howard. One thing I appreciate about Jamie Howard, if there is one thing, because I know he wasn't the best quarterback, he did wear the Peyton Manning college lineman mask. So shout out to him. But it's insane how many Auburn calls have gone their way. Insane. But am I overstating it? Once again, it's let me see, did I mention the Cam Newton year? There were some weird things that happened that year. But of course. And I'm not talking about the laptop. Don't give a crap about that. Now, I'm going to do one thing. All right. And it's going to make all you guys really excited. Because you guys come here to hear me talk about the WNBA. I'm going to give you a take on it right after this.
I think joy and happiness and doing things you like is important.
My favorite thing is sports cards. When I'm not on YouTube, I am building my collection. And when I started, I wish there was a sports card strategy show.
He wasn't necessarily going to be a first-round pick before all this Heisman buzz. Now they're talking about him being a top 5 pick.
Paul Hickey and the team at nooffseason.com personally helped build my Jaden Daniels collection, and they're looking to do the same for you. Just check them out on social media or nooffseason.com. I'm kidding. No WNBA talk here. It's not that I'm not interested. It's just it's so toxic right now. I mean, everything everything under the sun has to be perfectly manicured for the conversation. Here's what I'll say though. One overarching thing about the WNBA is they're playing too many damn games. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, I thought NBA back-to-backs were bad. It's silly how many games that they play, especially for rookies that are coming off a full college season going into the WNBA. But, you know, I'm always going to back Angel. All right. I'm always going to back Angel Reese. So it's been crazy. I'm not going to get into it, though, because it's toxic out there. I'm going to give you one offensive player that's also grown on me going in to this next year. You know, I gave one earlier on the defensive side of the football, and I want to give one here offensively. And that guy is Caden Durham. All right. You know, there have been studies done at the NFL level. I believe it doesn't apply as much as a college level, where the individual running back talent matters a little bit more. But in the NFL, there have been so many studies done that say the running back is only the byproduct of who is blocking in front of him. All right. There's plenty of film you can watch at the NFL level that shows there might be 5 running backs that truly do move the needle, like that are truly special difference maker running backs, but most of them are replaceable. Most of them. At the collegiate level, I think it's because the individual defenders just aren't as good. I think, you know, a running back holds a little bit more value. But what's very interesting about Caden Durham is that he is a very special talent. You know, his high school grade for me right now is about the same as that of Caleb Jackson, probably a little bit better. I'd have to go look at it. But Caden Durham's actually reaching the 9 range, and I'm not giving out a 9.0 or higher since Emory Jones and Harold Perkins. So it's been a while. But Caden Durham is about to walk into one of the best situations a running back has ever walked into at LSU. So he's got little competition ahead of him. Now, the 2 players that are ahead of him are really good players, and Caleb Jackson and Josh Williams. We do not know what's going to happen to Trey Holly. Okay. But the truth is, this would be the case for any running back. Even if it was a 3-star running back walking into this running back room for LSU, there's just not a whole lot of bodies. Like, think about this if you are Trey Holly last year. Trey Holly, early enrolled last year, was the RB2 in spring behind Noah Cain. And then out of nowhere, 6 guys joined the room. All right, some of which you knew were joining, and then others just kind of joined. Trey Bradford out of nowhere. Caden Durham, it's the opposite. There was only 3 scholarship running backs in the room. Now there's 2. We don't know what's going to happen with Trey Holly. So the opportunity for Caden Durham is there. It's wide open. And I feel he is a better prospect right now than Caleb Jackson and Trey Holly. He's close to Caleb Jackson. I love Caleb Jackson. He was a top 5 player for me in last year's crop. He is the number 1 offensive player in this class for me, Caden Durham. So now he's walking into a room extremely talented, extremely athletic. Arguably, if you're just going purely off production, high school production, it's him, Fournette, and Hill. As in, how badly did you dominate your high school competition? And you can make a case that Durham played at a higher competition level than any running back that has ever come into LSU. Duncanville plays really good teams. And he dominated. He wasn't just good. He would dominate. And now it helped that he was surrounded by 4 and 5 stars offensively. But Caden Durham was so good. So unfreaking believably talented, unfreaking believably productive. walking into the thinnest running back room we arguably have ever had in the modern era. I am talking myself more into him being a big piece to what we're going to do next year. But that's not it. That's not the whole story. That's not the whole story. He's now walking into a room where he's going to be behind the best offensive line we've ever had at LSU. This will be the best offensive line we've ever had at LSU. Whether you look at blue chip ratio, this is the best blue chip ratio offensive line we've ever had. And just guys being dudes. Just guys being dudes. They're dudes. All 5 of those guys will play in the NFL. Caden Durham's walking into a gold mine. He is walking into a gold mine. And if he can catch passes and he can pass protect, man, he has got one really good opportunity ahead of him. He's got one of the best running back coaches of all time. He's also got guys ahead of him who get hurt. You know, Caleb Jackson has been banged up. Now, I will also tell you this isn't out there in the ether too much, but Caleb Jackson also played through more pain than what was let on in his true freshman season. What I've heard is he played tough. He was gritty. And Josh Williams also has been a guy that's been banged up as well. Caden Durham wheels the frick up for next year. This could be something truly spectacular. I'm really excited about it. And I wouldn't talk about him this much as a true freshman if I didn't believe. I believe. Okay. Now, there's another true freshman, Dominic McKinley, who's got a far more open room to run into than Caden Durham. At this point, though, I'm probably a little bit closer to McKinley being a year 2 guy compared to a year 1. What I would tell you, though, is the reports are that Dominic McKinley is really taking everything seriously. He looks really good. He's in great shape. And one thing you could say about Mason Smith, I understand Mason did not have the career that we all wanted him to. A lot of it is due to injury and a rotating door at the defensive line coach. Is Mason Smith took his weight very seriously when he got to LSU, changed up his diet, and was ready to go and was dominant day 1 versus UCLA. So, McKinley, I don't know if he's as good as Mason Smith as a true freshman. I do think you can make an upside case that he could be better. And I am loving that, you know, he's taking the coaching and he's going to take it running, right? So hopefully he can be that guy. There have been plenty of true freshman defensive tackles who have made huge impacts right when they got in. Siaki Ika is definitely one of those guys. So he's a completely different type of player, but still. Devon Godchow, as a true freshman, started right away and changed his body, and he was a beast. So I am really freaking excited about Dominic McKinley. He's grown on me. I'm still a little bit leaning towards him being the year 2 breakout. But if there's ever a need for a year 1 guy on the defensive line, it is right now. Right now. Now, here's what we're going to do. We are reaching, 20 minutes left to go on the live stream. I've touched on everything that I wanted to touch on today. Now, if you got a topic, feel free to super chat it on in. If you guys want to talk about the collective, I will gladly talk about the collective. If you guys want to talk about LSU baseball, I've kind of put that in the rear view. I heard earlier today that Jay Johnson's already on the road recruiting for next year's team. No vacation. He takes losing really hard. Really excited about Jay Johnson. Already his ass on the trail. He doesn't need to be. But he is. He works really hard for us. So big shout out to him. I know what a lot of you are going to say, well, it's his job. True, but he doesn't need to be. He could say, hey, I'm taking a week off. No, his ass is on the trail. So there you go. And I'm rocking back and forth again. You guys get on me about rocking back and forth. I need to get a lapel mic so I can just move all around. So it's on me. All right. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. The master blaster. What's up, team? Good to see you, Tony. Ooh, Jordan wants to get some NBA chatter in here. Big dog. Dex from Lacey Dex Productions. Hire them today to shoot your next wedding, to shoot your next promotion. If you just happen to fly in to Louisiana and you need an interview shot and you need a music video shot, if you need any production work, Lacey Dex is the one that made my new open for PHO. So I'll give you my thoughts on the NBA Finals. Definitely the weirdest NBA Finals for me, because this has honestly never happened before, but I do have a friend playing in the finals, and Daniel Gafford, who I've known for a long time. And so I am heavily rooting for the Mavericks. So I'll let that be out there. I'm not really a Mavericks guy. Also interviewed Kyrie Irving at the NBA draft when he got drafted, and I was a young pup, and I forgot to press record on the recorder, and it never happened. And I had to call my SiriusXM bosses and say I didn't get the interview. So yeah, that was cool. That was very cool. It wasn't cool at all. I was very sad. So yeah, I'm pulling for the Mavericks. I will also say this. The Mavericks feel like a public play if I've ever felt one before. It feels very public to be backing Dallas. Very public. Now, what does that mean? It seems like most everyone is picking Dallas because it's plus money. I kind of like Dallas in game one, but I can easily see them win game one and the Celtics win 4 out of the next 5. Tony with the super chat, I really appreciate that, man. Tony, you get to pick the next topic. Go right on ahead. But I'm going to go with the Mavericks, even though I feel the Celtics are the sharper play. I think we're getting a little too carried away with the Timberwolves series, and I kind of am leaning the Celtics. I really am. I will also say this: this has been the best NBA playoffs I have ever witnessed. I really do mean that. Now, is it the most legendary NBA playoffs? No, but that's why I like it. It's a lot of new, and new is good, even though the ratings say the opposite. The ratings want LeBron. The ratings want Steph. The ratings want Jokic to defend this title. I like new. That's how I feel. I will also say this. The Boston Celtics and Bill Simmons, if you're watching, I'm sorry, I got to say this. This is the most boring NBA team I've ever seen. Their interviews are so boring. Like, I would lick a pine cone rather than listen to any of their interviews. Boring. But boring is good. Now, let's go to Tony. Can we sweep the wide receivers on the recruiting trail? It's a very good question. So, for me, like I shared at the beginning, KALIQ LOCKETT, I thought DeCorian Moore it would be tough for me to find a wide receiver better than him in this recruiting class because he's that good. I mean, he really is that good. But man, when I started watching some of the other guys, KALIQ LOCKETT really stood out to me. Now, I like Jamie French too. He's a 5-star receiver out of Florida. He has a higher recruiting ranking than KALIQ LOCKETT. But I think right now, if I were to rank the likelihood of the wide receivers coming to LSU, Jamie French would be 1. DeCorian Moore would be 2. KALIQ LOCKETT would be 3. Could we sweep all 3 of the 5 stars that we're kind of in the mix here for? No, that's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But I would also tell you that at the On3 Nashville series, they did bring up the possibility of all the elite 5-star receivers going to the same school. And we've really only seen that happen at Ohio State, where multiple top 50 receivers go to the same school. And Ohio State did that recently with Carnell Tate, and I forgot the other 2. But yeah, I guess it is a possibility that LSU can get all of them. I will say I like Teron Francis, the little bit that I've watched of him, and yeah. Call says, Tony, we need to get the momentum. Need OBJ to make some phone calls. Yes, we do. I'll also tell you this. Numbers matter. Okay. And you got to pay all these guys. I mean, there's no salary cap, so you don't have to worry about that. But there's realistic expectations of where you need to spend your resources. And if I was Brian Kelly, I would say, look, we need wide receivers. Every year you need to bring in new wide receivers. But especially if CJ Daniels hits this next year, that is the position that is the most abundant in the transfer portal and just the most abundant period. Every year, and once again, I need to go count this myself, but normally, if you look at top 100s, mostly it's wide receivers. They always had the most. Then it's the most abundant position in Louisiana. It's a position we have produced more elite guys than any other position. And that's not including Dontavian Wicks with the Packers. It's not including, of course, the young man who won the Heisman Trophy, who will not be named. Kidding. Devonta Smith is great. So, yeah, I think I'm really excited. Now, Cole, if you watch the Joe Burrow video, which I think you did, Luka Doncic trash talking in Snoop's direction. I don't think he was trash talking Snoop, but in Snoop Dogg's direction, I actually included that video. It has to do with the Joe Burrow video I did. A lot to do, actually. The Luka Doncic cursing had a lot to do with the Joe Burrow video. So go watch it. If you're a fan of Luka, you'll like it. If you're a fan of Burrow, you'll like it. I would guess all 90 of you watching right now are. I gotta. So this has been a debate. If you want to get into another NBA topic here towards the end. So Draymond Green is running his mouth again. One thing he is unequivocally right about. The Durant Warriors would destroy the 04 Pistons. Destroy them. If they played a 7-game series, they're probably sweeping. It's probably going to 5 games, though. Detroit wins one of them because at some point Rasheed Wallace punches Durant and they win that way. The Durant Warriors are beating any NBA team that has ever existed in a 7-game series. And I am not sure if I'll ever see an NBA team better than the Durant Warriors. Now, they're not my favorite team, but they are the best team. They're not even close to my favorite team. In fact, they're my least favorite championship team ever. They're running everyone out the gym. Shaq, Kobe, I'm not even a Lakers fan. I love those Lakers teams with Rick Fox, Derek Fisher, Robert Horry. The Vlade Divac tip out to Robert Horry is one of my favorite plays. Shaq and Kobe's not stopping them. Jordan, Pittman, Rodman, no. The Durant Warriors. And they can't just come out and say it. I mean, Draymond would, but they're not going to come out and say it. That's the best NBA team of all time. The only team that's beating them is the 92 Dream Team. The only team. And even that. Because that's late stage Bird and late stage Magic. But the 92 Dream Team is the only team beating them. Or no, actually, I'll take that back. The 08 Olympic team with Kobe, LeBron, Chris, and those guys, they're beating them. But all other teams, no. All other teams, no. Tony says I've lost my mind. The Durant Warriors are running everyone out. Okay. They just are. Don't shoot the messenger. I wish it wasn't the case. There are few sports stories that have ever happened on the planet Earth that's pissed me off more than Durant going to the Warriors. And I say that because that just happened in soccer. Real Madrid, who's won all the Champions Leagues of like the past decade, they've won almost every one of them. They just announced Kylian Mbappe, who's probably the best forward in the world. So, the Kevin Durant of soccer is joining Real Madrid. Okay. Now, soccer culture is a little bit different because there are so many different leagues. So, it's not as big of a deal as Durant going to the Warriors because there's just one title in the NBA, where in soccer there's 1,000 different ones. Okay. The bottom line, the Kevin Durant Warriors beat everybody. Outside of 2019 LSU. Oh, man. So, yeah, I don't. Soccer is different, though, because there's just so many different things. But Real Madrid is truly unstoppable now, especially with Barcelona falling off and in financial ruin. So, he is not the Kevin Durant of soccer. Is Mbappe not an all-time great? Are you saying Mbappe is better than Durant? Maybe so. I don't know. His career is still so young. I could see them similar, though, at this point. Like, Mbappe's not the all-time best soccer player. He's not even in the top 10, but he has a chance to be. But Messi and Ronaldo are so far ahead of everyone that it's near impossible to catch them. Like, they are so far and away ahead of everybody. But yeah, Mbappe is incredible. I love Mbappe. And this Real Madrid move is making me feel a little different, though. Now, so far, top super chatter is Tony. Got about 5 or so minutes left to go. So if you want to keep it going, I'll go a little bit later than 7 if we get a few supers. We'll do a little bit more like recruiting tomorrow. Like I said, I just can't do it. Okay. I randomly made a post about Stephen Ridley earlier today, and it got 29 likes. I appreciate that. Stephen Ridley, the definition of underrated is Stephen Ridley. Bottom line. It's true. NIL is peanuts compared to Justin Jefferson's money. That is true. But will the wide receiver market be the same then as it is now? I don't know. I could see that. I could see the wide receiver market changing course. But I am happy Justin Jefferson is getting it near its peak. Because it can't get that much higher, can it? Like, it's just a simple supply and demand thing. If there are good wide receivers in almost every single NFL draft, now last year there really wasn't, but if there are good wide receivers in almost every single NFL draft, what would be the point of paying someone that much? Now, I will also tell you this. I'm not just saying this because he's an LSU guy. Justin Jefferson actually is worth it from the Vikings' vantage point. Highest double-covered receiver in the NFL over the past 2 years is Justin Jefferson. And they got a rookie quarterback. So they're going to have the rookie quarterback on a rookie wage scale. It actually sets up nicely for him. Tony said the Magic, Kareem, and Worthy Lakers would kill Golden State. Come on. Let's be real. No. Magic, no. Magic wasn't a good enough defender. And every time you do that, it's like, okay, so you want to do Magic, Kareem, and James Worthy. Cool. Who's guarding Klay Thompson? Because Magic would be on Steph. Worthy would be on Durant. And I guess Kareem, I mean, could he play on the perimeter? I don't know. The game is just so different. Who's guarding Klay Thompson? Kareem Brown says 2019 LSU versus early 2000s Miami. I think you can combine all of the early 2000 Miamis and make a super team, and they're still not beating 2019 LSU. They're still not beating them. They don't have the offensive firepower to keep up. They don't. But the Miami defense is great. Come on. Let's be real. There are some teams that would give 2019 LSU a run. 2023 Georgia or 2022 Georgia would definitely give 2019 LSU a lot of issues. Okay. It's always tough when you do 2020 Bama versus 2019 LSU because you could make a case 2019 Bama was better than 2020 Bama. 2020 Bama got better defensively, but I just can't get there with 2020 Bama because 2019 LSU beat 2019 Alabama in Alabama. And the game wasn't as close as the scoreline indicated. Yeah, so Michael Cooper. I can't get there, man. I'm sorry, I just can't get there. Like, I don't. And maybe I'm overrating the Durant Warriors. I mean, they were a Chris Paul injury away from getting beat by the Rockets. So maybe I'm overrating the Durant Warriors. But I don't know. All right, y'all. That'll do it for me. Big shout out to our top super chatter, the great Tony Bryant. Big announcement on tomorrow's show. I will be on the road, a very special location. And I'm not talking about the card show coming up in Shreveport at the end of the month. Don't forget, June 29th, next PHO get-together. So tomorrow, big announcement. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! And tonight, we're doing burgers. Let's go.